Good morning. It looks like it is 9 o'clock straight up, so we'll go ahead and get started. Ali, happy to see you, and Ben's
Yeah.
robot, we're happy to see you as well, and Angel and John. So might be a small group today, which is great. So that's totally fine. So I guess the first thing that we like to do is start these off with a poll. And we ran the poll in our LinkedIn a while back. Just what is the biggest problem that you have with networking online? And the biggest problem that most people have is knowing what to say to start with. Knowing what to post, knowing what to comment, those kinds of things. And I think this is harder. I mean, it's hard in real life, honestly, to just start a conversation with somebody that maybe you don't know very well. And it's even worse online because none of us grew up, doing this. It's a new skill, it's a new situation and things like that. So I'd love to hear what the people in the room, what is your biggest issue with networking online? For me, it is definitely number two, knowing what to say. John, what do you think?
I haven't found this poll you talk about.
Oh, okay. It's on the screen.
Oh, I thought you were going to pop it up.
Nope. We're going low tech today.
Biggest challenge and probably number one.
Finding the right people. Okay. That's a good one. We'll talk about that today too also. Angel, how about you?
For me, knowing what to say, also because the tone, the context, and how you really verbalize your thoughts in online.
Yeah, I hear you. That is definitely true. Ali, are you able to jump in, or are you internet
Yes,
challenged today? Good.
I'm
Happy to hear you.
struggling the internet and the electricity. They have been playing with us, but we will be going to the topics. For me, I also go with the finding the right people. Why? Because whenever I connect with is in this intention that knowing what to say, it's hard to start the conversation until and unless the people resonate with our industry or what I am currently doing regarding job title, etc. Uh, those those things matter for me. So I will go with finding the right people.
I see. Okay. I get it. So we will talk about both of those things today, and it sounds like we've got two of one and two of another. So we've got a good mix of topics. So, the agenda for today, of course, networking and aviation marketing, building your online presence, networking strategies, maximizing opportunities, making an offer, which is sometimes that transition from, we're networking and we're talking and we're small talking and all of these things. And then all of a sudden we need to shift that to some kind of a business conversation. That shift can sometimes be awkward as well. And then we have some appendices and resources like, offering a better free consultation and so on. All right. So the first part is basically online networking. These are just some statistics that I found online from some pretty actually respected sources like Harvard Business Review and things like that. So these are professional people. These are not novices. These are not college students, people who are new. These are people who have been in business for a while. Online networking is preferred over in person networking by 40% of people. That was kind of surprising to me. But, then when you think about it, if you go to a networking event, everybody says, I hate these mixers, or I'm not real comfortable with networking in person either. Networking online seems a little more directed or a little bit more, at least you're not in the room. If you embarrass yourself, you can always just fake an internet problem and and get out of the situation. So you have a little bit more control over the situation online than you do in person. If you, spend the money to go to a networking event and it turns out to be a total bust, then you've, basically spent a lot of money to be there in person, and you don't really have to worry that much um, about getting there and the logistics and all of those things. All you have to do is click a couple buttons and you're in a networking event online.
So what do you mean if you get there and a networking convention is a bust?
Mm. turns out to be all the wrong people, or they did have this happen at NBAA one year when there was a hurricane. Do you remember that? So there were, like, 20% of the people there that should have been there, so there were, like, 5 people at some of those networking events.
Well, that would be a bust, but you can't have the wrong people.
Well, you can in the sense that, you show up to,
You
uh
don't know
right?
who the right people, the wrong people. You gotta get out of your comfort zone and go there and say, "Hello, my name
Mhm.
is."
Yeah,
You are?
right. That's true, but I have gone to events where there are no decision makers in the room, it's all.
Yeah, but you don't know that until you talk to them.
That is true, but what I'm saying is if you find out after the fact, once you get there to a networking event, it's not as big of a risk and an investment than to spend the money to go to an event and then find out that, maybe it's not the right event or not the right crowd for you. Does that make sense?
No,
No? Okay, tell me why.
because it is the right crowd if it's NBAA.
Mhm.
One, they're aviation. You didn't go to a retail shop
True.
convention.
Good point.
You didn't go to a car convention
Okay,
where they have to be the right people.
okay. Let me give you
Maybe not specific regimen within that.
Mhm.
So
Okay.
you never know. I mean, if you network with people you think are wrong and you
Mhm.
don't assume they're wrong,
Mhm.
you start talking and
Mhm.
introduce yourself, say, "Oh, okay," and talk. I mean,
Mhm.
one way or another, that will probably lead to something down the road that may surprise you and it may not be worthy, but it might be.
Agreed.
Don't know until you put yourself out there.
Okay. Since you're in a, playing the devil's advocate, let me try another example. We went to an NBAA event one year, and it was at a nightclub, and it was so loud that we couldn't hear anybody. It was definitely much younger people than we were.
Oh, yeah, I remember that one.
Right. So that was a networking event that we invested. I mean, we were already at NBAA, but we went to this party thinking, this might be a good networking event. It turned out to not be, in my opinion, simply because there's no way to network at a nightclub because, there's just this pounding music and nobody can hear each other talk, right?
Yeah, that was a flop from when they first made it.
Okay. So you admit that sometimes an event turns out to not be ideal.
Well, nobody nobody can network in a nightclub unless you're trying to pick up somebody.
Okay.
I mean,
And
if
not
you
in a
wanna pick
business
up
sort of a way.
a person and go play, that's one thing, but business in a nightclub is probably not, uh,
Agreed.
and they're not gonna do that again, I'll bet you.
Mhm. Exactly. So online networking, it has some advantages over in-person networking. I don't recommend, not doing in-person networking because it is 1,000 times more powerful to meet somebody in person and see them eye to eye and shake their hand, and it's just a lot easier to build trust in person than it is online. But, this was an interesting statistic from the Harvard Business Review, which I thought was crazy. I didn't think I was the only person that felt this way until I saw this. Kelly, welcome. We're glad you're here.
Thank you.
We're actually just talking about some statistics that we found recently, and these are about networking in aviation marketing. So, second one, social media platforms have become one of the greatest ways to connect and meet people, potential employers, or clients, as 60% of the world's population uses them actively. I was actually really surprised by this one because, you always hear about some amount of the population is not even literate, much less have access to devices, much less have, active accounts on social media. So, I thought that was really interesting, and of course, in aviation, we are almost always talking to the top 0.05% of the world's population, so, of course, they have access if they choose to, be online.
Well, and
Um
probably for me, the reason that it's easier that I prefer to just go up to somebody and say, "Hey,
Mm.
I'm John, and you are."
Mhm.
I mean, I have been to probably more sales courses than most people.
Mhm.
I mean, everything from Amway, for crying out loud,
Oh, heaven forbid.
car
Right.
sales,
Yep.
uh, insurance, real estate. I've been to all those sales schools and more, and Sandler and, shoot, I don't remember all Pacific something or another,
Pacific Institute, right. Yeah, I remember that one.
and, you know, I mean, the thing that really amazed me was the insurance one. That's the one that got me going because I went to this 2-week course because I wanted a job.
Mhm.
And this was a whole bunch of years ago. And when we got done, the guy, before we let us go out, he said, "Now, when you go out of here and go on back to your cars, when you walk out that door, you should probably find some gravel on the somewhere there and just pick up a stone, flip it in the air, whichever way it goes, go that way. And when you go that way, sell insurance to every person that you see."
That's crazy.
Well, we have, but it worked. Shoot, I I actually sold more insurance before I got to my car, and you could shake a stick at. It's amazing. Every person.
Mhm. And
They
that's
couldn't. A lot of them couldn't afford it, and that's why I got out. But it wasn't my problem because they had to go talk to the company.
Mhm.
But I did the thing.
Yeah, and this is in-person sales, so that shows how powerful that can be
Mhm.
when you're in the same room with someone. Um, so, I think this 3rd point really points to the hybrid, approach. A lot of people who meet with you in person are gonna look you up before they meet with you. They wanna
Nowadays,
know.
that's true.
Mhm. They wanna know something about you, before a meeting, and so I do this actually before I meet with somebody in person or otherwise. I'll look them up on LinkedIn and see what we have in common, see where they went to school, see, what some of their interests are so that I know what we're gonna talk about. And I have some ideas in my back pocket about, what we can talk about. So I love that hybrid approach, because
And
it
and
has.
more specifically, an example would be we had a potential client call and say they were gonna be in Park City.
Mhm. Yeah, this is just recently.
No, this was years ago,
Okay.
and, so I told him I'd go up there and meet him, and so you told me to look him up on LinkedIn, I did,
Mhm.
and so when I got up there, it's like he obviously had in fact, he's told me later he did that. So I walked in there, and this guy's from Florida, so who knows where he's from, but I saw him, went over, shook his hand, and we sat down like we've been old friends.
Cool. 'Cause you knew some things to talk about. You knew what he looked like, so, it's not like a blind
Oh,
date.
yeah, I knew exactly what kind of company he was in.
Uh-huh. That's cool. So, are any of these things surprising to anybody else? And maybe a good question for the group is, do you prefer online networking or in-person networking? I think with people I don't know, I almost prefer online networking to start with.
Uh,
In the recent years, if we are talking about in 2025, it should be as you mentioned, 40/60.
Yeah.
It sense in current scenario. But if we talk about past in 2020,
Yeah.
it should be 100% in person.
Right, right. Okay, good point, good point. Excellent. Alright. Well, I was kinda surprised by the number of people that are involved with that. So, these are some of the things, and we're not going to work through all of this. Of course, if you've been through our personal branding, process, then we have talked about a lot of these things before. These are some of the things that we recommend for your LinkedIn profile. And I know it sounds like basic stuff, but the basic stuff is what gets you where you need to go. So, a customized profile URL, I recommend, and we did this for all of our kids and all of our grandkids, when they're born, we get them their URL, because it is an important thing, I think, to control your identity online, whether or not you actually do anything with it, and then for a lot of people, we just point it to their LinkedIn profile. So, that's one thing that I recommend. And then also LinkedIn has a tool where you can shorten your URL and make that um, easier to work with so that it's not a bunch of numbers after your name. We do recommend that you get a professional photo taken every 3 years. And I know that seems like a lot, but we all change a lot. Fashions change, our hairstyle changes, our eyebrows change, a lot of things change. And, so we want to make sure that we look like ourselves, so that those hybrid events, especially if somebody meets us online and then meets us in person, they're not surprised, because we looked 20 years younger in our LinkedIn profile and other things. And it's not about being glamorous, it's just about being human. But I will say that getting a professional photo will make you feel so much better about sharing that photo. If you can get a great photographer, and in the United States, I recommend Thumbtack to find a local photographer. You can see reviews, you can see portfolios and other things. You can see their pricing and all of that. And, just go get a professional photo taken or do a professional photo shoot. If you are in sales or marketing, it is an investment. It seems like an indulgence, but it's an investment in how you feel about yourself, how you portray yourself, and all of those things. So, highly, highly recommend that. The rest of these things I think we've talked about with everybody on the call, using the real estate of your LinkedIn profile banner in a way that makes sense to you, writing a great summary, um, using the STAR method for your bullets for your experience, which is the Columbia University this is what I did, not just, these are the things that I accomplished in that job, not just here's what my responsibilities were. So if you can make those quantifiable and, again, the more information you can include in and here we're talking mostly about LinkedIn, but other profiles work as well. There are some other systems like Alignable, which I've dabbled in, but not really been that impressed with because we don't really do a lot of local business, but I hear it's great for people who sell locally. Any other thoughts or questions about online profiles or how to complete them or any other platforms that anybody is working with?
For LinkedIn, I think so. As you mentioned, it is really the need of the, you can say, moment. Because first, whenever you want to connect with any person, any business, first you have to go through the LinkedIn profile or find them on the LinkedIn first.
Yeah.
And second primary source would be always Facebook.
Mm,
Do they have any other social platform existence?
mhm.
So maintaining a great profile over LinkedIn is really, you can say, makes sense.
Yeah.
And how to organize it, it also what you want to accomplish from your, you can say, profile. Or you want to sell something, you want to connect with business leader, you want to provide some services, or you want some leads, so that should be must be reflected in the profile as well in order to achieve your target. What people usually do, what I have also learned in my experience, I started with nothing, no background image, no proper headings, no summary, etc. But when I turned into those ideas which you have highlighted here, I see couple of improvement in my profile in terms of connecting with the good leads. People started connecting with me, liking my post and engaging with my post as well, and also sending me the DM. So this really matters a lot,
Mhm.
and I do see that these are the most relevant the bullets you have highlighted here.
Right, right. I think a lot of people come to LinkedIn thinking that it is still a job search site or a resume site. And so unless they're actively looking for a job, they're not really that active on LinkedIn. So if you treat it for what you want it to do instead of what it was designed for, and so for us in, aviation sales or aviation marketing, we are using it to connect with the kind of people that would buy our products and services. So how do we make our profile work the best for the purpose that we want it to do? We're not looking for jobs, we're looking for clients. And that's a difference that changes the way you write. It changes. In fact, we just worked with a journalist recently who did not. I mean, he was using LinkedIn as if it were a uh, resume site, and he didn't have any of his articles or books or videos or any of that on his LinkedIn, which was crazy because he's a journalist, so you want to make sure that those examples of your work are illustrated and, shown on your LinkedIn profile. So, make it form follows function. That's the Frank Lloyd Wright maxim. You want to make it suit your purpose and make it work for you. Any questions about building your profile, what you should include, what you shouldn't include? Anything along those lines? All right, we'll move on. Okay, one thing I love to do is, when I have time, is follow Fridays. And I think this has done more for my network. I've been doing this for about probably 10 years of the amount of time that we've been networking in aviation and selling in aviation. So I don't do this every Friday. I should do this every Friday. Sometimes I try to make up for it the next Friday by doing twice as much. But what you'd want to do is search for 10 people who fit the criteria that you choose. So right now, we have a marketing effort to market to MROs. So I'm going to look for 10 sales managers at MROs in the United States. And I can use the filtering criteria on LinkedIn to find sales managers in the United States that work for MROs. And it's pretty simple to look by job title, by location, by other things in LinkedIn. And I just send them a connection request. Most of the time, they will accept, because they can see that I'm in the aviation industry. I'm connected to some of the people that they're connected to because I've been doing this for a long time. So, that shows up as somebody that is not fly by night. I'm not. I actually got a connection request the other day from somebody who said they were an orthodontist, but it looked like they were, um, you know, 19 years old and looked like a supermodel. So if everything matches your title, your picture, your connections, and all of those things match, people are really likely to connect with you when you send them a connection request, especially if they're in your industry. So that's one of the things I like to do is to search for 10 people every Friday that fit those criteria. I write 1 or 2 recommendations for people who have impressed me this week, and that could be suppliers or vendors or, people that work with us, clients, employees of clients. There's gotta be somebody that we worked with this week. They don't have to have cured cancer. They just need to have done something that was kinda cool, and then you can write them a recommendation. The interesting thing is when you do that, people write them for you as well, kind of the law of reciprocity. And so then you end up with more recommendations and you also end up with a better, more positive, more fun network. Does that make sense? Is anybody here um, uncomfortable writing recommendations for people? Is that something that you've tried, something that you would do, something that you wouldn't do for any particular reason?
For the team member, the colleagues, the one we are working with, I understand that is making sense. But for the clients, how we do that?
Okay.
They are they should be sending us request, or we can do it by own.
I'm sorry, I didn't quite um, grasp the
So
last.
for clients, we have to write it by own. They don't need to request us. We just giving them a good gesture and sending them a recommendation.
Right. So, as an example, let me think of a client that has an employee that has done a really good job. So, Turbines Inc. was a client for a really long time. They hired a new person, that was working with some of their uh, video, so they were taking video in the shop, and they were sending us great video, and they were sending us good pictures and things like that, and I wrote a recommendation for her. Even though she was working for a client, she was a, independent business person, and I wrote a recommendation for her. Her name's Jane Santucci. She has a marketing company, that specializes in agriculture in Indiana, Terre Haute, Indiana. Highly, highly recommended, especially if you need photos and video in Terre Haute, Indiana. So, she did something that was helpful for us. She's an employee of a client, so, like, 2 steps removed from us, and I wrote her a recommendation. Um, Other examples might be, maybe we work with a lot of clients that have other marketing people that work for us or that work with us, and, we may talk about them. We had a great project with this person. They made it easy. Everything was great. Things like that. Or, maybe an admin assistant for a client that helped you, find some information you were looking for. There's lots of interactions that you have probably every week. I like to go back through my email and just say, "Who have I talked to this week?" Or go back through Basecamp and say, "Who's done something this week that was helpful for us?" And, write them a recommendation if I haven't yet. Like I said, it can be something trivial, even something simple, but if they've been helpful or, they've done something cool or interesting, then, I just like to be as positive that I can with folks, and people don't get enough recognition for what they do anyway.
Yes, makes sense.
Okay,
That makes
fantastic.
sense. And Paula, I think you
Yeah.
model it really well. I have seen some of those things and I do notice and appreciate them. And I agree that people do not receive enough positive or just a notice, and it makes a difference. So thank you for that.
Oh, you're very welcome, and I think, it attracts the right kind of people to us, because if they see, that we're a positive organization that appreciates other people, they're more likely to hire us as a marketing company because we're the kind of people they wanna work with if they are positive people. If they are not positive people, they're gonna be repelled by that, and they're gonna think, "Ew, these guys are," I c talk about New Yorkers as if that was a thing, and I know there's a lot of really nice people from New York, but if we take the stereotype of people who are all business all the time, let's get right down to the brass tacks and things like that. If they're looking for that in a marketing company, they may be happier with somebody else. Um, but if they're looking for people who are human and who work with each other well, and that appreciate, what each other does, then, those the kind of clients we would want, and if they see those things happening, they might be more likely to, be a good fit for us anyway. So, 2 reasons those are good. One is because I want recommendations, so I write them, and the law of reciprocity in the universe, if you put out good stuff, it comes back to you, maybe not from where you put it, but, that's just the way the universe works. And then secondly, we wanna show people what we're like, and if we're positive people and, we appreciate things that people do for us, they do more of them. Even from a practical, selfish point of view, that works really nicely. Um, all right, so maximizing opportunities. So, um, what I like to do is, if there is an opportunity, like this webinar as an example, or anything else, if we go to an event or something along those lines, if I know who's going to be there, I can look them up ahead of time. I can be prepared for those conversations. I know where they went to school. I know something about, their interests or something about their hobbies or whatever they've shared, on their social media and things like that. And, I can be prepared before and then also afterwards, if I meet people that I didn't know before, I can connect with them and say, "Hey, it was great talking with you. I'm glad we met. Here are some of the things that we talked about, that we might wanna pursue," and carry on the conversation before and after the event using that hybrid approach. John, I'm sure you have examples of this. Mr. Devil's Advocate.
Maintaining long-term relationships is probably has some effort involved for most people. Does, but it's worth it on several levels. It's healthy for one thing.
Oh, yeah, exactly. And there are people in the aviation industry that we worked with 10, 12, 15 years ago that I'm still connected with on social media, whether or not we're working together. And,
Yeah,
so
I mean, healthy not for the company. It's healthy for the company, obviously, but it's also healthy for you and as an individual.
yeah, that's true. That's absolutely true. And, I think, I read something recently that people have very few close friends, nowadays, or fewer than they did 10 or 20 years ago. And I think, that's partly because things have moved online, but I think if you are good at maintaining relationships online, then, you find out about people's birthdays and their anniversaries and their kids and their, other things, and you can maintain relationships even if you haven't seen each other in a while, right?
Well, I think that's a misnomer because even when I first started after college, they told them, I don't know who said it. In your life, you will probably have, if you're lucky, 5 close friendships.
Mm,
So the fact that they say there's fewer nowadays, nah, I don't.
okay. Yeah.
Because 5, I mean, I can count 3 or 4. And I mean, some of them I haven't talked to in a long time, but
Yeah. And if you're counting friends as people you could call at 3 o'clock in the morning and say, "Come get me. My car is stuck in wherever," I mean, that's a different kind of friend than somebody that, you have a good relationship with and, enjoy, talking with or having lunch with, right?
no, same person. How
Okay.
could it not be?
But there's probably more
They're
people
a
that
good friend. You can go to lunch with them, or you can call at 3 in the morning.
I know, but there are more people that you would be happy having lunch with than that you would be comfortable calling at 3 in the morning.
No, not me.
Okay, cool. Ali, you had your hand up.
Yes, actually, I want to add that LinkedIn is doing a great job by highlighting those areas. If anyone have their birthday is coming, or you can say changing job, we
Mhm.
always receive a notification
Yeah,
to appreciate them and make them congratulations, and also some anniversaries.
yeah,
So LinkedIn had a proactive approach. We can use that if we uh, uh, m- miss it on our part or forget any past colleague. Just like when I changed my, you can say, career or moved in a different direction, and I got recognitions from my organization, I see a couple of my old colleagues coming, jump in and say, "Oh, congratulations! We saw that you have started new career," and so on. So
mhm,
it really helps, and LinkedIn is in this regard is very good to, you can say, go with.
right, that's absolutely true, and, it's really, part of that follow Friday routine might be to check up on your, those announcements and those other things, just to see who is doing what and, all of those things, because it's really easy, I think, these days to get really tunnel vision and focused on what we're doing in our own computer, in our own life and our own little world. And a lot of us work from home as well. So, we don't really get that opportunity to interact with other people. So if we make that effort every Friday to spend time reaching out and interacting with other people, whether that's writing recommendations or congratulating them on a new job or an anniversary or whatever, um, that really gets us out of our own little shell. And for some of us who are kind of introverts by nature, that helps us balance that out in our lives. So that's an excellent point. Right. Okay. Um, fantastic. Any other examples or thoughts that you've used as far as getting into this? All right.
You're asking with me?
Anybody? Or we can move on to
Um,
yeah.
I have like mentioned it before, but I think that I would like to mention it again. So basically, after my university and the situation of aviation industry in Pakistan obviously very bad, and there were no opportunities. So that's when I reach out to key stakeholders in different countries, like like you have this no limit world there, you to the people you can connect with. So
Yeah.
that's where obviously, because obviously I'm in Pakistan, you are in USA, like there is like literally no possibility that we could have connected. But then I put myself out there on LinkedIn, try to reach out to people, key stakeholders in the industry, and that's how I came to land this opportunity with ABCI. So I think LinkedIn is very good, especially uh, it gives you a broader, you can say, broader ground to connect with people in your niche.
Right. Exactly.
People otherwise you couldn't have imagined meeting.
Thank you for bringing that up, Adila. I think, your story is like a perfect example of how this worked. Adila and I did not know each other. We had no connection whatsoever. We'd never met, we'd never worked together. And to be honest, I think we connected at one point and I went on with my day or whatever. I don't think I think it probably took you 4 or 5 times of connecting with.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yes, so basically, basically it's a very personal story. So I like to tell again and again. So basically, I messaged you, and at the time, at that time, you said, "Oh, I don't think so that I will be doing this."
Right.
Uh, so I was like, okay, like what can I say more? But then what I did, I reached out to you, to the people you were connecting with. So I tried to engage on their post. So whenever I saw that you were doing a comment on your clients, I would reply there, and that's how you messaged me back, and that's how it went on. And here
Right.
we are.
Exactly, and, what that showed me is, number 1, you understood the industry because you were making a lot of sense in your comments, and, so this is not just a student, who's has no background in our industry. You really know your stuff and you really have an interest in a lot of the things that our clients have interests in. And I thought, well, this is more interesting than I thought. And so your persistence also, that's exactly the kind of person we wanted to work with. So it took what, 6 months, maybe 8 months, something like that, from the time that we first met to the time that we actually ended up doing business together.
No, 1 month.
1 month?
Yes,
Wow.
it
Okay.
was 1 month.
Okay.
It
Yeah.
was basically 25 days.
Oh my goodness, you were keeping track.
Yeah.
I had no idea. Okay. It seemed like longer to me, but, we've I think with a lot of the clients that we have now, it's a similar story. Sometimes a much longer story in the sense that, in fact, there's an instance where, someone asked for advice about CRMs, and, it was somebody that I wanted to work with. I gave her a really, really long, detailed explanation of here's what I know about CRMs and what to do and what not to do. And she wrote me back months later, saying that was a really helpful comment. I didn't say anything at the time, but now we need some help with some things that we're doing. So let's continue the conversation. So a lot of times, those comments and those interactions on LinkedIn, they don't get immediate gratification and you feel like, "Oh, they're not interested in talking to me." And you feel bad, because nobody likes to be rejected or, ignored, but it's an asynchronous relationship, right? You do something and then a day, a week, a month later, something else happens. So it's not immediate gratification. I think that's part of the reason that it feels so awkward is because we're so used to interacting in person where we say something, we get a response. We say something, we get a response. It's like a comedian in front of a room full of people where they get nothing. They get no laughs, no chuckles, no grins, no snickers. It's really, really hard for a stand-up comedian to keep putting that energy out there without a reaction. And I think online media has that effect on us. We feel like we're putting a lot of energy out there and not getting anything back, or at least not getting that reassurance that we're being heard and understood. So we have to persist, past the point where we think it makes sense. All right. Q&A, I mean, this is actually a pretty short workshop intentionally because I wanna spend a lot of time on anything that you guys wanna spend time on, any examples or problems or issues that you've run into, and we can, of course, take a field trip to LinkedIn, take a look at your profile or anything else that you wanna do. We've got about, 15 minutes left, so, we'll take this wherever you guys want. These are some of the questions and answers that, we've had from clients, especially in our, consultations and other things. So I wanted to make sure that we're doing this you guys took the effort to show up in the middle of the night or the early morning or the late morning or whenever it is, so I wanna make sure that we're doing what you want with this workshop.
I'm really interested in the leveraging the LinkedIn groups forum to expand the network and the aviation sector. And does the my post, if I connected in particular group,
Mhm.
uh, sharing my post over there will increase my chances in networking, leads, or etc. Something like this. So I will really appreciate if you go through this.
Okay, fantastic, that's a good question. Groups have kind of gone up and down, over the last few years. It used to be that, Facebook groups were kind of the standard. They were amazing. They were really, really active. People would get a lot of engagement in their groups on Facebook. LinkedIn, maybe not so much. And I think part of the reason is because Facebook was built as a socializing platform, and LinkedIn was built as kind of a resume warehouse. And then they've added other things. It's kind of evolved since that point, but the way that groups are constructed in LinkedIn, they're not nearly as active or dynamic as they were in Facebook a few years ago. Since then, Facebook groups have kind of, declined a little bit in their popularity and, the dynamic nature of them. Um, some of the advantages of LinkedIn groups are that you can connect with any other person in that group. Um, you know, you don't have to be, um, and you can message any other person in that group. So, let's say if someone is 3 degrees removed from you, but you share a group together, then, there are some mechanisms that you can use that you couldn't otherwise. So you can message them directly, if you belong to the same group. But I've seen, engagement in groups in LinkedIn, not exactly what I would have hoped for. So I don't spend a ton of time in LinkedIn groups. I don't know if anybody has a different perspective or a different scenario with that? Okay.
I'm trying to connect with a couple of groups, but I'm not seeing any results. So that's why I asked this question.
Right.
People are definitely reviewing the post, but it seems that only sharing is not helping me to get the results what I want. And
Okay.
I second your point that Facebook is more good in this area, and we can leverage some, you can say, grouping and sharing the message and etc. over Facebook.
Right. So I think the best advantage of LinkedIn groups is the plumbing. Basically, if you are in a group, then you can connect with any other person within the group or message any other person within the group without being connected to them. But I've never seen great engagement from groups, and I've kind of backed off. A couple of years ago, we did an experiment. I don't know if you remember this, with creating a LinkedIn group and, posting messages there, trying to get some engagement and things like that. We always get far, far, far more engagement on our personal profile. Personal profile was number 1, company profile was number 2, and then groups was a far 3rd, in terms of engagement, right? So I don't spend much time engaging in LinkedIn groups, but I do join them. The ones that have a lot of people that I want to meet or interact with if I'm not already connected with them. So the plumbing is good. The interaction is not. That's kind of been my experience with LinkedIn groups.
And the second question would be
Yeah.
the about the content. What type of content should we or I can share on the LinkedIn? to engage with the network and demonstrate my expertise. I think so. We are giving this service in our personal branding as well.
Mhm.
So,
Exactly.
so I would love your more ideas and tips and tricks over there.
Right. So what we've seen in the last year, I think, it used to be, there are trends on LinkedIn as there are on anything. And it used to be that I think 6 months ago, it was probably the long text posts were getting a lot of engagement. Now I think it's kind of going more towards video. Video is getting more engagement, especially live video where you show your face. I know that's really hard to do for a lot of people, and it's a little uncomfortable or a little awkward, but you can get better at it. It's just like any other skill. If you show your face, you say something simple, even if it's the same thing that you would have put in a long text post or anything else. If you are actually speaking, those are getting a little bit more engagement on the same topic as they would otherwise. The other thing that I would recommend is making it easy to comment by asking a question or using polls and other things, because polls get quite a bit of engagement as well. So, it's one thing to say, I know all the answers about this topic. And that's kind of the way I portrayed myself for a long time because I thought that was what I was supposed to do as a consultant, right? Is to uh, give people information and just provide, provide, provide. But as it turns out, people are much more interested in me asking them what they think than me telling them. So, those kinds of posts where I'm asking a question or, doing a poll or especially doing a live short video and then asking a question seem to get the best engagement.
So what you're saying is a group facilitation approach.
Yeah, exactly. You can pretend that your LinkedIn audience is a group that you are facilitating and you're trying to get information from them. What do you think about this? Or what's your opinion on that? And people tend to respond really well to that because everybody is an expert on something, and especially in the aviation industry, everybody wants to share what they know, right?
Interesting.
So
Yeah.
what I understand that it should be the variation of mixed post each
Mm.
week, depending on what you want to say. It should be must be humanized. You have to come on camera and show your face as well, so that everybody recognize that they are not talking with any bot or AI tool. There is
Mhm.
something happening behind the scenes as well,
Yeah, I
and
think that's
don't always sell and say that I'm selling something and buy my service.
mhm.
Be you all the time and open the doors for every, you can say, connection you have. So thank you for sharing this, Steve.
Yeah, no, that's a great point, and I think, part of the reason that in-person video has become more popular is because people can tell that it's not AI. At least so far, I guess it is possible to fake a personal video that is AI generated, but so far they're not very good. But showing your face is something that so far it is much more difficult to do with AI than writing text posts and things like that. So I know Kelly has gotten some great results from some storytelling. And I think the reason she's been so successful is because she puts her story, her heart, her soul, into that story. And, that people really respond to that really well.
Thank you. I need a little more focus on this, but I need a little time.
I know, yeah, and that's really the problem is time, right? Quality posts take time, there's no way around it. There are ways to leverage that, and maybe if we could, next time we talk, Kelly, talk about maybe turning one post into 3 or something along those lines to maybe make that a little bit less time consuming for you. But, the reality is quality work takes time, and there's no way around it, and being personal is, what really gets the results, and that takes an investment of time and so on.
Thanks.
Yeah. Um, Anything else anybody wants to share or talk about, or any examples or questions or anything else? We got about 5 minutes left, so I just wanna make sure everybody gets an opportunity. You feeling better about LinkedIn marketing than you did at the beginning of the hour? Did you learn anything you didn't know before? I guess is a good question.
I learned about I was very curious about the grouping because it makes me always confused that should I move this direction or not. I tried a couple of times, but did not get any good results. So that's why I was much curious about to ask, and you shared your insight, and I'm much clear. That is very good insight and good learning opportunity over there. And
Right.
the initial point that connect how to balance the connect start the conversation or connecting with the right people, that also makes sense with me because I'm also doing some work over there, so that definitely resonate with me. So I learned those both points very clearly now, and I really appreciate your all insights.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we wasted a lot of time on LinkedIn groups before we came to the conclusion, let's not even do this. I mean, we can join groups and, connect with people, but, even publishing information or sharing information to a group, it doesn't take much time, so it might be worth doing, but don't expect engagement and certainly don't feel, um, badly about it if they don't get engagement. I just don't think groups have the visibility on LinkedIn that they do on other platforms, so that's, it's
Lastly, I want to add one more point that when I joined ABCI, one thing we still, you can say, continuing emphasizing that no one succeed alone. So
Mhm.
whenever me, you, our clients, anyone post on their social media, especially on LinkedIn, try to like, comment, and engage with them. It really makes sense to
Mhm.
each other to grow and get more visibility. So this insight or this expertise I got from you in real time, not in this network workshop, but that really helps and makes sense because I see couple of engagement when I try to engage. What we usually do, we post on our LinkedIn profile and we wait that someone has to come and like my post and comment without doing nothing, not interacting with other profiles, not making any comment, etc. So
Mhm.
the communication is a two-way tool, not a one-way tool. So we
Mhm.
have to engage in other profiles and make efforts in this direction.
Absolutely. I think for so many years, marketing was a one-way street, just basically putting information out, putting information out, putting information out. But, people really don't care about that. They care about conversations and they care about, and in a even if only 2 people are talking, that's still 1,000 times more interesting to eavesdrop on than one person, just standing on a street corner expounding their beliefs, right? So, yeah, and I think that's one of the great things about this group is that, we get aviation, we do great comments, and sometimes that's what's needed to get the ball rolling, is having people from the group. And, again, that's how we met Adila, was she was commenting on our clients' posts and really helping with their engagement and their visibility. There's an algorithm to it, but it's also just a human, uh, phenomenon that, if you hear a conversation going on where people are talking about something that you're interested in, you're gonna gravitate toward that even if you don't contribute to the conversation yourself. So it really improves the quality of what we do when there are 2 or more people talking.
Actually, I also want to add about that maximizing opportunities that Adila
Yeah.
shared. It shows that showing up consistently and adding value and being seen as part of the community really helps. And the relationship first approach really it is how you influence and access are built. And though random comments get seen in LinkedIn, but smart comments get remembered.
Yeah.
So maybe that's how you and Adila connect. And consistency and smart and comment like you mean it instead of just commenting on random things, and support like you're invested to that post or something. So yeah, that's what I've learned from this workshop.
Yeah, excellent. Well, thank you. Thank you very much, Angel. That is absolutely true, and that's probably the most important thing we've talked about today is being human and, having that human interaction is possible online. And it's necessary online because we can't all be everywhere. In fact, our team has never met in person. So, it's really other than John and me who kind of know each other, but but most of us have never met in person. So if it wasn't for online networking, we never would have gotten where we are. Okay, so it is Thursday. Tomorrow is Friday. What I'd like for everyone to do is to start a new habit as a result of this workshop. Take 1 or 2 or 3 things that you learned and put together your own Follow Friday uh, process, whatever that is. Follow 10 people. Comment on, 2 great comments is 1,000 times better than 10 thank you for sharing or something like that. So, if you can actually dig into the content of what people are sharing, especially the people that you most want to work with and you most want to be involved with. And, anybody on this team, I think, is really, really good. And anybody on this call is really, really good at interacting and, being smart about the topics in the industry and showing what they know in that way. So yeah, if you're not connected to the people that you met today, I think we all are connected to each other. Improve your profile in some way and start a new habit as far as interacting with other people in some way tomorrow. And, follow 10 people, make 2 great comments, send 1 or 2 recommendations. That's my habit. You can make your own, whatever it is, for your Follow Friday. And I think you're going to find that in some amount of time, you have to be patient with it. But I've been doing this for a really long time because it keeps working and it keeps getting me results that I really like. Well, thanks you guys for spending some time with us today. I really appreciate that you guys made the effort to be here and share your experience and your knowledge. I think that's part of online networking and showing up to events and participating actively. So thank you for that.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Kelly.